YouTube, Twitter. How's everybody doing today? It's the 717 Sports Chat Live Reviews. I'm your host, Marcus J., and we are going to do a review on the Manny Pacquiao and Yordenis Ugas fight. I could have got on here yesterday, should have got on here yesterday and did this review, but I'm not going to lie. I took a little kind of a day off from streaming. I had some things on my part-time job to do. You know what I mean? So I took a day off from doing anything streaming related. But we're back on today. And as everybody know, the big fight happened over the weekend that was supposed to be Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. Unfortunately, Errol Spence suffered a torn retina in his eye and had to pull out of the fight. So WBA Welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas, Fabian Maidana, his previous opponent, had to pull out due to an injury as well. So that allowed Ugas to step up and replace Spence and get this career opportunity against Manny Pacquiao. With that being said, as everybody knows, Yordenis Ugas was able to defeat Manny Pacquiao by a unanimous decision and what turned out to be a pretty dominant performance by Ugas. Now, with that being said, I was actually trying to do a live commentary for the fight, but unfortunately, when I was trying to do that, when I was watching the stream or whatever, my stream kept acting up. My internet was kind of being funky with me on that night. Even when I was doing on my wrestling stream, my internet was acting a little funky. But be that as it may, I still was able to catch the fight and review the entire fight. And with that being said, basically Yordenis Ugas, I said it in the preview up to this fight, he had to play the long man's game. He had to use his reach, he had to use his size, and most importantly, he had to use that jab. And that's exactly how Yordenis Ugas befuddled Manny Pacquiao. He kept him at distance with that jab. He kept the jab in his face all night long. I said it. How Manny Pacquiao can be beat is if you keep a jab in his face all night. You've seen it in the first Eric Morales fight between Pacquiao, and you've seen it with Floyd Mayweather. You keep a jab in Pacquiao's face all night long, you can give Pacquiao some problems. And that's exactly what happened. As well as if you look at the fight, Yordenis Ugas was clearly the bigger man. He was clearly outweighed Pacquiao about 15, 20 pounds. So even though Pacquiao wasn't in any clear danger of being knocked out specifically, those shots that Pacquiao was taking from Yordenis Ugas, they was backing Manny up and keeping him honest and keeping him from coming in and being even more aggressive than what he usually is. Now, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean? He threw 800 punches. That may be true, but every time Yordenis Ugas landed his shots, Manny backed up and had to reset. And let's keep in mind, Manny Pacquiao may have threw 800 punches, but he only landed about 15, 16% of those punches. So also how Yordenis Ugas was able to befuddle Manny Pacquiao was he was able to use he didn't even have to stay within really outside distance. He actually played inside, but he used slick defense. He used Manny's aggression against him. He put up a high guard, and he stayed in the pocket. But as I said, he used that jab to keep distance, and then that right hook was there all night long. The right hook was hitting Manny all night long. Manny had no answer. But another thing that I mentioned in the preview that I said will work to you guys' advantage would be throwing body shots, the jab and body shots to slow Manny down. Anybody who has speed, you should try to go to the body to wear him down. Anybody who's coming forward, the way that Manny comes forward with his fight style, you should throw to the body in order to slow them down. And that's exactly what Yordenis Ugas did. Exactly. Keep in mind that Yordenis Ugas is an Olympic gold medalist. So did he surprise me in this fight? Yes, he did, because I still thought at even 42 years old, even coming off of 2-year layoff, that Manny Pacquiao was going to be able to do just enough and have enough left in the tank to outduel Ugas. That proved not to be the case. Ugas was clearly the bigger man. Anything that Manny did land with, it didn't bother Ugas at all. He was clearly the bigger man. He had the size advantage, and he used his skill. He used that amateur and that Olympic pedigree to befuddle Manny. Everything that Ugas did, Manny had no answer for. You can say, oh, he threw 800 punches all you want. None of those shots had any clear effect. And to be honest, most of the punches that Manny did land with, it's clear that Manny Pacquiao is 42 years old. There was really nothing on those shots. Nothing at all. So what the Yordenis Ugas keep doing? I'm going to keep that high guard up. I'm going to keep that jab in your face, and I'm going to keep the pressure on you in spurts. And every time I land on you, it's going to be a clean, effective shots to where the judges, there's no doubt who's landing the better shots here. Yordenis Ugas landed, I believe, over 50% of his power punches, or half of his punches. He landed half of his punches. That's incredible. That shows you the consistency and the level of counterpunching that Yordenis Ugas was using against Manny Pacquiao. Every time Manny was trying to come in, he'd duck underneath, he'd use that jab, bang, right hook, get out of the way. So that's how Yordenis Ugas was able to befuddle Manny Pacquiao. And it really did shock me. I did not think that Yordenis Ugas was going to be able to beat Manny Pacquiao, even with Manny coming off of a 2-year layoff. Just being, how Manny looked against Keith Thurman, I said, okay, he might be able to still have some left in the tank. Even now, he's coming in rested, even though, there is ring rust. And we're going to get to that here in a second. But I still thought that Manny Pacquiao was going to be Manny Pacquiao and be able to do what he always does. You know what I mean? To some degree. I mean, obviously he has 8 losses now. But against certain fighters like Ugas, who doesn't have much power, knockout power, and who doesn't have, that it factor, as you would say, well, I was proven wrong. Not saying that Yordenis Ugas has that it factor, but he has enough skill to be a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao, living legend. And that's exactly what he did on Saturday night. He outclassed Manny Pacquiao. He made Manny Pacquiao look every bit of 42 years old that he is. And there's no doubt about that. I see a lot of people out there saying, oh, well, Manny do 800 punches. If, he just be active, he can still do something for the sport. No, it is over. It is over for Manny Pacquiao. And that's why we're going to move on. How did Father Time catch up with Manny Pacquiao? Well, it's simple. Manny Pacquiao is 42 years old now, and he is coming off a 2-year layoff. And I did warn fans about that in my preview to this fight. Don't think we're going to see the same Manny Pacquiao that showed up against Keith Thurman. We hadn't seen him fight in 2 years. Yes, was he coming in rested, which could generally be somewhat good for a 42-year-old fighter, given all the wars Manny has been through. But that could also be a detriment. And it proved to be a detriment on Saturday night. And what I mean by Father Time caught up with Manny, though, people can say, oh, well, he threw 800 punches. How did Father Time catch up to him? Look at how the punches landed. The punches that landed had no effect on Yordenis Ugas. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. None of those punches bother Yordenis Ugas. They did not have the same, oh my God, he's coming to get me power that Manny used to throw with. It's gone. It is gone. And there was a couple times he caught Ugas clean flushed. Did nothing. Back in the day, Manny Pacquiao would have finished Ugas in about 5 rounds, maybe even less. It is over. Father Time caught up with Manny. And I'm not even saying overnight. I'm talking about over these 2 years. Him sitting out those 2 years, not being active, actually turned out to be more of a detriment than it was a good thing for Manny Pacquiao. It turned out to be more of a bad thing for Manny Pacquiao. Especially given at this advanced age, it's proven now that he should have been staying more active, then maybe he would have had a better chance. Now, I'm not saying that even had he been more active, that he had a better chance, because Ugas was clearly the bigger and stronger fighter and just looked like the better fighter on Saturday night. But activity is key in fighting. Any fighter would tell you this. Activity is key. You see it with fighters like Conor McGregor. The inactivity will kill you. And that's exactly what happened with Manny Pacquiao and why Father Time finally has caught up with Manny. Forget all the past wars and all that. That has obviously a lot to do with it as well. But another reason why Manny Pacquiao, his Father Time, has caught up to him, look at how he was backing up when Yordenis Ugas was landing cleanly on him. Every time Yordenis Ugas touched him, he essentially hurt him. Not hurt him to where he had him in clear danger of being knocked out, but he backed him up from wanting to come in and engage. Yes, Jamie, that is true. Very, very true. Ring rust, that happens, especially for an advanced fighter. Now, there's only so many guys like Bernard Hopkins in this world. Not many guys can do it like Bernard did it. And I feel like that's what Manny tried to do. And unfortunately, it did not work out for Manny. That ring rust and that time off killed him. But like I was saying, as well as the ability to not be able to take punches the way he used to take punches. When Yordenis Ugas touched him, he backed him up. The old Manny Pacquiao, yes, was he still patting his gloves and trying to psych himself in? Yes, he was. But the old Manny Pacquiao would have padded his gloves and ripped off a 20-punch combination. The shots that Ugas landed had an effect on Manny and made him not want to engage. And that's exactly another reason why Father Time has caught up with Manny Pacquiao. The wars, all the punishment he took from the wars with Morales, from the wars with Barrera, from the wars with Marquez, and then added up with advanced age and being out of the ring for 2 years, that can have an effect, especially in a contact sport. When you're in a contact sport, you need to feel that contact in order to be able to still be used to it. I say it like you see Terrell Owens talking about, oh, I want to come back and play. I can still play wide receiver in the NFL. No, you can't, bro. You haven't been touched in almost a decade or more. Them young boys put one hit on you, they're going to break your ass. The same thing in boxing. When you haven't been touched in a while, when you took a long layoff, especially a fighter like Manny who has throughout his career, he can be touched. He can be hit at a high value. It's not like Mayweather where he takes a couple years off. He's a defensive fighter. His first instinct is to play defensively. Manny's first style is to play offensively, which could lead him open to clean shots as we've seen him take throughout the years. So you sum that up. You sum all that up. Father Tom unfortunately caught up with Manny on Saturday night. But hey, you know what I mean? It happens to the best of them. It does not take away what Manny Pacquiao has done in his career. He is an 8-division champion, a 4-time welterweight champion. The man's legacy speaks for itself. Jamie, I do think that Manny should hang it up. From what I seen on Saturday night, I don't even think activity can save him, because it's not even the fact that, okay, he threw 800 punches. I look at the punches he took. Every time Ugas touched him, it bothered him. If that was Errol Spence in there on Saturday night, Manny would have been finished within probably under 7 rounds. And I firmly believe that. Just because Spence is stronger than Ugas, hits harder than Ugas, and is fresh, is just a better overall fighter than Ugas. Errol Spence probably would have killed Manny Pacquiao in that ring on Saturday. Manny Pacquiao saw, Errol Spence would have destroyed him. It would have been a sad finish for Manny Pacquiao, how Errol Spence been in that ring and wouldn't have been injured. The fact that Ugas isn't a knockout puncher and lacks that knockout power saved Manny that night. Because if that was Errol Spence, we could have been looking at a Marquez situation. But be that as it may, that's how Father Tom caught up with Manny Pacquiao. Inactivity, ring rust, age itself, but more importantly for me, the inability to take the blows anymore. We used to see Manny Pacquiao take those shots and come back, pat his gloves, do the Ali and rip off 20 straight shots. We didn't see that on Saturday night. He had to be hesitant when he threw his shots. Every time Ugas hit him, he made him think, reset. Then Pacquiao would throw his combinations, but they had no effect and they didn't land because Ugas did a tremendous job defending. He did. With that high guard, I expected Ugas to kind of move a little bit more. He didn't. He stood his ground. He put that high guard up, and he just basically used upper body movement to deflect a lot of Manny's shots. And that's how he was able to get the job done. But like I said, Father Time, unfortunately, has caught up to Manny Pacquiao, but he has nothing to be ashamed of. He still put in a pretty decent effort at 42 years old. He did. The man still did throw 800 punches. So he showed he still has the cardio to go in there and do it. But to me, I don't think the physicality is there anymore. The ability to take the shots that well, the punch resistance, I think it's gone. Because, like I said, had that been Errol Spence in there landing those body shots, landing those right hooks, landing those jabs, it would have been an uglier night than what we saw from Manny Pacquiao. But as you said, you asked me, Jamie, do I think Manny Pacquiao should hang it up? I do. What's next for Pacquiao? I think retirement is next. He's already talking about it. He's already mentioning it. He even said it after the fight. This might be the last time you see me fight. And I do think it's time to see Manny Pacquiao hang it up. What else is there to prove? There's nothing else. There's nothing else to prove. Nothing at all. You got your 8 division titles. You got your 4 welterweight championships. You proved back 2 years ago that even at an advanced age, you were still one of the best fighters out there. You proved everything there is to prove. So what's next for Manny Pacquiao? I think a ride off into the, I think a ride into the seat of being Philippines president. I think Manny Pacquiao will be the president of the Philippines. And I think that would be good for Manny. He's already done so much for that country. He would be a terrific president just because the heart and the soul and the person he is. He's a good person. He's a genuinely good person. But that's what I believe is next for Manny Pacquiao. But we're going to see. He did say, and basically from what I see it with Manny is a double-edged sword. In his heart, he wants to continue to fight. But in his mind, it's telling him, and I believe also in his body, it's telling him to quit. It's telling him to stop before something severely happens, before another Marquez situation happens. So hopefully that's what will be next for Manny Pacquiao, will be retirement. But sometimes we know this with fighters. If they're saying that's what's in their heart, usually that's hard to hang up the gloves when it's in your heart and you want to still do it. And would it surprise me if Manny decided, hey, I still had the cardio to do this. I threw over 800 punches in that fight. I just need to tweak up certain technical issues, and I can still compete at this level. It wouldn't surprise me if he decided to keep fighting based on that. But I think he'd be setting himself up for even greater failure and even more danger, especially at his advanced age. He will be turning 43 very shortly. So what's next for Manny Pacquiao? I believe retirement and a seat as the Philippines president. That's what I believe is next for Manny Pacquiao. Hit the comment section. Let me know what you guys think is next for Manny Pacquiao, as well as what do you guys think is what's next for Yordenis Ugas. Obviously, with this victory, he set himself up into a dream position. He did. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter, because they're going to a purse bid. And Ugas, in all honesty, is in a catbird seat. In all honesty, he has a WBA title. He has a belt. And with this win off Manny, to some degree, he can pull some A-side type of strings, given that, in all honesty, now he has one thing over Bud Crawford that Bud Crawford doesn't have. And that's a legitimate named champion, a pay-per-view attraction on his resume. Ugas has that now. He has 2 of those now with Sean Porter and Manny Pacquiao. Terrence Crawford can't say that. So, with that being said, we don't know how long Errol Spence will be out for. Ugas can play, in all honesty, Ugas can play hardball with both. Now, easily, when Errol Spence gets back, he's the A-side compared to Ugas. But why this is so fascinating is because what happens if Spence is out for, let's just say, 9 months to a year? Let's say, give it a year. He stays out for a whole year, lets that eye completely heal. let's say Bud Crawford beats Sean Porter, or Sean Porter beats Bud Crawford. Either way, but I'm going to just go with Bud Crawford beats Sean Porter. Ugas is the A side in that unification fight. That's the truth of the matter. Against Crawford, he's the A side. You had a fight against Sean Porter, a decision that many of you think that Ugas should have won, and he beat Manny Pacquiao. Who did Terrence Crawford fight? With the type of caliber. Who does Terrence Crawford have on his resume like that? He doesn't have anybody on his resume quite like that. So with that being said, I mean, obviously now they're going to a purse bid for him to fight Porter. But even if he fights and beats Porter, Ugas is still going to be the A side because he has a win over Manny Pacquiao. And he had to fight with Porter first. So Yordenis Ugas just put himself in a pretty good position both ways, whether he fights Errol Spence or whether he waits to fight Errol Spence or whether he fights the winner out of Crawford and Porter. Jamie Trumpet, no one. So I'm saying, like, he has fought nobody. And that's the truth. I like Terrence Bud Crawford. I feel like he is the real deal. I think he has terrific skills. But if you look at his resume, the cupboard is bare. It is extremely bare. His best win was at lightweight against Yordenis Ugas. Easily. So with that being said, you know, I think Yordenis Ugas is going to wait for the winner out of Crawford and Porter. Because now that sets up for a unification in itself. That's the WBA and the WBO belts getting unified. So then when Spence comes back, now we have the undisputed world title. Whoever wins out of that matchup, we have the undisputed world title match. Sounds like the stars align perfectly for Ugas to me. But I want to know what you guys think. What is next for Yordenis Ugas after defeating Manny Pacquiao? Do you think he'll sit out and wait for Errol Spence to come out get healthy with that eye injury, or do you think he'll fight the winner out of Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford if that fight gets made via purse bid? Hit the comment section. I want to know what you guys think about what's next for Yordenis Ugas. But all right, guys, this is another episode of 717 Sports Chat Live Reviews. I'm going to get off here for the time being. I will be back later with 717 Sports Chat Live episode 20. I will be uploading that probably around 9 o'clock. I'll have that here uploaded here in a second. So be sure to hit the comment section. Join me, you know what I mean, as I discuss various sports topics. I'm going to get out of here for now. This is 717 Sports Chat Live Reviews. I'm your host, Marcus J. Appreciate the love and support. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so you get all my notifications when I'm uploading, when I'm going live, etc., etc. Appreciate the support. I'm out. I will see you at 9 o'clock. Oh, before I go, to answer your question, Jamie, Spence and Ugas, what would Spence and Ugas look like? I think Spence would slaughter him. Just because he has only one way, and that's coming forward. And that, to me, that type of style would make Spence look better. To me. I think that Spence is just overall, he's just an all-around gifted fighter. I don't think Ugas, especially with Ugas' lack of power, I don't think he presents any problem to Errol Spence. I almost feel like he would have to mug Errol Spence the way Sean Porter did in order to win that fight. But that's just my opinion. Hopefully we'll find out here what's going to happen with these fights. You know what I mean? How this is going to play itself out. I really think that Ugas will be better served to wait for the winner of Sean Porter and Crawford and see how that fight plays out. And you enjoy your evening too, Jamie. I appreciate the love and support. But once again, this is another episode of 717 Sports Chat Live Reviews. I'm your host, Marcus J. Once again, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, the support is greatly appreciated. As well as if you want to make a donation to the channel, the donation link is in my top right-hand corner in my description, in my photo description. Appreciate any love and support. You can share my videos as well. Try to get the following growing. I will be uploading here, having some subscriber goals uploaded here soon. I will be also doing some subscriber contests so that people who support me can get some cool stuff like some merchandise. I do have a merch store. If you want to buy some merchandise, you can check out my merch store. The link is in my about section in my YouTube channel as well. So any support is greatly appreciated, whether you want to donate, like, or subscribe to the channel. But I'm going to get out of here for the time being, guys. I will be back at you with 717 Sports Chat Live episode 20, where I go live discussing various sports topics across NFL, wrestling, boxing, whatever. Hopefully I'll see you there at 9 o'clock. Hit the chat box. Let me know what you guys think about the topics I talk about. Appreciate the love and support. 717 Sports Chat Live Reviews. I'll see you guys at 9 o'clock for episode 20. Have a blessed evening.